is Kim Speedy from 10 Sigma. Welcome to episode 111 of Transition Tuesday. Today I'll be talking about beginning with transition. Throughout the school year, each month I'll be talking about transition from beginning to end and how to create a great program. Right now I'm going to switch over to a short slide presentation to share some information. Beginning with transition. Transition Tuesday, episode 111. As you start another school year and consider your students' transition needs, two of the most important steps to creating a successful transition program are first and foremost to make transition a top priority. And second, to teach parents and other IEP team members their responsibilities in the student's transition process. Have you ever heard the proverb, "It takes a whole village to raise a child"? This is especially true when students are transitioning to adult life. For students to have the most successful outcomes and reach their postsecondary goals, it takes the whole IEP team's participation in the process. Let's first talk about how to make transition a top priority. It would be helpful to first consider your role as a transition teacher, which is guiding students to take ownership to reach their postsecondary goals. Let's look at a recap from episode 100 on the specific role of a transition teacher. The role of the transition teacher is to continue to help students acquire the basics, along with developing a coordinated set of transition activities that guide students to reach meaningful postsecondary goals in education and training, employment, and independent living by understanding and considering their options, determining their postsecondary goals, making a plan to take ownership to reach their postsecondary goals, and by developing their life and employment skills to secure gainful employment, participate in the community, advocate for themselves, and live as independent as possible. As you can see, the role of the special education teacher changes if the teacher is teaching transition age students. The major differences is that the special education teacher teaches skill needs that the students are lacking in disability areas. The transition teacher continues to work on the skill needs of the students, but their main focus changes to guiding students through their transition process. Now that you've considered your role as a transition teacher, let's talk about the next steps. Studies have shown that if things are not made priorities in the beginning, they won't get done. When we try to fit things in when there is time, there is never enough time. Making transition a top priority means starting with the big picture of what you want your students to accomplish this year in the area of transition. Then setting at least one goal. For example, students will actively participate in their transition process for 60 minutes a month or 30 minutes a month. Then make an outline. An example would be picking a different topic every month for the students to work on. Like in September, they would work on exploring their options for employment, or learning how to advocate for themselves, or learning about their IEP and what that means, and how to lead an IEP meeting. And then actually schedule time for transition. You could do 60 minutes a month. For example, you could say, one class time instead of doing math or whatever it is, you could work on transition. Or you could say 15 minutes a week at the end of a certain class period. If you don't actually teach a class to all or some of your students, schedule a time to meet with them for 15 minutes and give them an assignment like researching 3 potential jobs they're interested in, why they're interested in it, what post-school education they need for each one, and average pay for each one of those jobs. Let's now switch over to a recap from episode 40, Foundation for a Successful Transition Program, to learn other ways to guide students in their transition process. Students and families need to be guided to provide informed answers to the important transition questions. This guidance should include teaching and requiring students to set goals for each quarter and the whole school year. Teaching and requiring students to make their own timeline in order to get things completed and to reach their goals. Providing opportunities for students to explore their strengths, interests, and wants. Having students explore and define their options for employment, education and training, and independent living. Teaching students how to help themselves improve their needs areas. Facilitating students advocating for themselves, and providing transition resources to the students and their families. Now let's talk about the next step, which is involving parents in their child's transition process. Start involving parents at the beginning of the school year. Don't wait until the IEP meeting, and start at a young age, preferably before the student turns 14 years old. Consider the benefits not only to the parents but to the student as well as you, the teacher, of involving the parents. Let's look at a clip from episode 10 on ways to involve parents in their child's transition process. Things that can be done to increase parent involvement in their child's transition process. Use parent surveys, questionnaires, and interviews. These can be emailed or mailed to the parent. You could also call the parent on the phone and ask them the questions, or invite them into school. These parent surveys, questionnaires, and interviews should contain questions about the student's past, present, and future. Some examples of past questions would be, what kinds of things did your child like to do or play with when they were little? Do they still like to do this? Present questions can be, who lives in your child's household? What does your child like to do when he or she is not in school? What is your child's dream? Future questions could be, where do you see your child living as an adult? Do you see them going to college or trade school? What do you think they would like to do for employment as an adult? What would you like to see them do for employment as an adult? When communicating with parents, written or verbally, use open-ended questions as much as possible. Communicate on a regular basis with parents via phone calls, emails, home visits, inviting them into school, or communication folders and newsletters. Listen to parents. Take notes while they're talking. Make sure you use and send out the transition IEP agenda prior to the meeting, asking if the parents want to add anything. Establish an open door policy. Let parents know how they can help at home and at school. Ask the parents to complete some of the transition services that are in the IEP. These are activities and tasks that the students need to do prior to graduating. The steps to doing this are ask the parents, be very specific on what the student needs to do, and then follow up. Explain the strategies used to teach their child. Hold transition workshops for parents. And provide parents with resources they ask for and ones that you think will help. Not only is it important for the parents to be involved in the student's transition process, but also the IEP team members. The transition process was designed to involve several members, each with an area or areas they can help the student with to better equip the student to reach their postsecondary goals. Let's look at a clip from episode 41 on the specific role of IEP team members. The IEP team's responsibility is providing input regarding the student's wants, strengths, interests, and needs, contributing to the development of the IEP, helping the student improve their needs areas, regularly reviewing the student's progress, and using progress to make decisions about the IEP. Now that we've discussed the IEP team's responsibilities, here are some ways you can help the IEP team members understand and share in the student's transition process. Provide the IEP team scheduled opportunities to give feedback about the student, their concerns, the student's progress, needs, accomplishments. You could use a feedback form, survey, inventory, or even a rating sheet. Provide updates on how the student is doing. And before or at the IEP meeting, you can suggest transition services that IEP members can help with. For today's bonus, I'll be sending you a valuable resource from 10 Sigma to help you begin the school year with transition.
Thank you for watching the video. I hope you use this information to start your school year with a great transition program. Be sure to check your email for the bonus we just sent over. If this is the first time you've ever seen an episode of Transition Tuesday, click the link below to receive the bonus. Be sure to like and share the video and leave a comment or suggestion for a future episode of Transition Tuesday. Have a great week. See you next Tuesday.